What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be a comprehensive analysis of the new weapon refines for Ayra, Ishtar, Lyon, Halloween Nowi, and Lara Shell. So I'll be going over my opinion of these weapon refines and what kind of builds you could run on them. And if you do end up enjoying these kinds of weapon refinery reviews, I would really appreciate if you could Regnal Astra that like button. It definitely helps a lot, and subscribe if you're new here. I do post a lot of analysis videos. So that said, let us begin. Ayra was pretty much the first very fast sword infantry unit at her time, and with this weapon refine she is back in the game. She's absolutely on par with many of the modern sword infantry units, which is absolutely amazing with this kind of weapon refine. So she actually gets a complete overhaul to her weapon. She no longer has the flashing blade built into Ayra's blade. Instead, she gets the special trigger acceleration, which pretty much makes Regnal Astra a one-turn special. And this is really good because back when Ayra came out in 2017, most people would ditch Ayra's blade for running Slaying Edge for having that special acceleration pretty much. So this weapon already gives her that, and it also grants her +3 speed, which it already did, along with now providing her with flat +3 attack. So these are pretty much the visible stats that she gets, and this is pretty much the first time for this kind of weapon refine. And then for her primary condition, she can pretty much stop foes' special acceleration skills, which is really good. So any kind of heavy blade, flashing blade, bolt fighter, special fighter, any of those skills are not really going to be charging up the special of the opponents. And she can also nullify the guard effects of the foes, so she can always trigger her special. It's pretty much like a null guard in a sense, and we have seen this kind of effect in Creator's Sword of BYLETH, so it's pretty much that similar effect. And the weapon refine is really easy to trigger. The foe needs to be above 75% HP, and she will get +4 to all of her stats, and also gets a flat damage reduction of 20% on foes' first attack. And this is really big thing because it's not really tied to any kind of stats. It is a flat damage reduction on the first attack, which is gonna be pretty amazing because most of the time she's gonna be so fast that she's naturally not gonna get doubled. And if she's going to be facing units who have got auto double skills, then she always has the option to run Null follow-up. So this damage reduction is extremely good. And this pretty much brings her up to the speed to the modern sword infantry units. Definitely gives even her own daughter Larse a run for her money. It's definitely a really good weapon refine, but still she has to face competition from monsters like Fallen Ike and many more sword infantry units that I'm sure we're going to be getting in future, which are going to be having even more effects. But it's really nice to see the original one get such a good weapon refine. So even at low merges, Ayra can be a really strong unit, and any of these builds can be run on low merges as well. But of course, as you go with more merges and investment with Dragon Flowers, you're going to be getting more value. So for budget Ayra, you could just run the Desperation build for the player phase, and she's still going to be a pretty strong unit because she can trigger Regnal Astra in the Desperation range. Wrath is also an option to have Regnal Astra charged up at start of the combat, and this can pretty much allow you to trigger it twice, and the extra damage that you get from Wrath is definitely pretty amazing. And the distant counter Wrath build is basically the same one from 2017, 2018 that was really popular. This still works out pretty good for Ayra's blade, and she can retaliate back with a really strong Regnal Astra. Distant counter is definitely the best slotted skill for Ayra because it makes her into a mixed phase duelist type of unit, and that is really good because she can function in both phases and be really strong with Regnal Astra. She does have low resistance of course, but the flat damage reduction certainly helps with that, and she gets more stats from Ayra's blade, and you could easily run something like Speed Rest solo. Now onto the max investment builds. I feel like Null follow-up is pretty much the best slot B skill for Ayra, and this pretty much allows her to become a BYLETH of a sort by having Creator's Sword with a combination of Null follow-up and Ayra's blade effect. So Null follow-up is easily the best skill that you can run on her, and Time Pulse is easily the best slotsy skill because it pre-charges Regnal Astra at start of every turn, and this pretty much allows you to trigger it twice in a combat in the player phase, and that is extremely strong. And Mystic Boost finally allows you to have some healing, which is really good. So this could of course be run on low merges, but on max investment this is going to be absolutely a very strong unit. And Spurn is an option, but like I said, Null follow-up is easily the best slot B option. Of course, more damage reduction seems really enticing to people, but keep in mind that damage reduction is not additive, it's multiplicative. So she's not going to be getting like 60% damage reduction. Instead, she's going to be getting 52% damage reduction. Now, even though this might look good, Null Follow-Up still, in my opinion, is the best lot B skill, because the reason is that Spurn 3 doesn't really let her win some extra matchups where she could struggle with, where she's facing like some kind of unit with an auto doubled skill. Of course, Spurn is going to be helping you with that damage reduction, but if you have Null Follow-Up, then the auto double unit is not even doubling her. You take no damage from their second hit. So that is really strong, and Null Follow-Up also allows her to bypass through stuff like impact skills and also follow-up negation skills, and that's a huge thing for such a fast unit like Ayra. So I really feel like Spurn doesn't really help you in the matchups where she struggles. It's basically a win more type of skill if you want to run that. Null Follow-Up is what makes her truly versatile and makes her win matchups, which Spurn can hardly do. So I would always recommend Null Follow-Up, but Spurn is still an option if you want to get some extra damage reduction. I pretty much explained my point. And then if you want to run her in Arena, she's also going to be a strong unit. Unfortunately, cannot have access to distant counter, because for optimal scoring, you will have to run R dual infantry. And just the combination of the Null Guard and the special acceleration nullification that she can do with her blade, it makes her a really good unit to be used in Arena. And the fact that you could run Null Follow-Up, have a strong special like Naglfar, even without distant counter, she can definitely pack a punch still in 2021 in Arena with the R dual infantry skill. And in Aether Ray's offense, she can function as a really good tank. Even at like just +1 merge, she's really that good. So you could just run her with Null Follow-Up, and Null Follow-Up is available in the Divine Code section in Part 2 as well as Part 1. And Null Follow-Up is going to be pretty much a necessity in the light season where she's going to be facing Bramimond. And as it is, like I explained, it is her best lot B skill, so you might as well run it. In the light season, she can definitely work at like +1 merge, because Ayra and Milla pretty much give her the extra bulk with their mythic boost, so that helps. And Naglfar gives you pretty strong damage output, and mystic boost again helps you with the healing. Now you could also use her with Soul and Brave Lucina. Soul becomes a 2-turn special, so she could retaliate back with that. And at max investment, this is definitely something you could run if you already have a lot of damage output with something like attack speed, solo, sacred seal, and just overall max investment. So that's an option, but I kind of prefer the Naglfar Mystic Boost route, because that can definitely hit pretty hard, especially the more investment you make into her. And you could also use her in Aether Ray's defense as a frontliner, so she's really versatile, and she's also a scary unit to face. And Ayra can be a really good frontliner for a multitude of reasons. Tanking strategy is really popular, and if someone tries to tank and they have someone like Brave Lucina, their special acceleration is not going to be working, because Ayra will just nullify that. And if they are someone who has an auto follow-up skill, if they are a tank, and if they have something like Hooker Post, then Null Follow-Up is going to get rid of that. If they have any kind of follow-up negation like Brave Hector, that's not going to happen, and Brave Hector can also not trigger something like Special Fighter. It also kind of messes up with the Galeforce teams that use Heavy Blade and Flashing Blade, so the special acceleration nullification is truly really strong, along with Null Follow-Up that can just let her bypass many of these cheating skills. And she can also hit really hard with Naglfar, and because of Time Pulse, it is basically a pulse smoke proof setup. So every turn, she's going to be having Naglfar pre-charged, and she could trigger it twice if you let's just bait her out, and that is really scary, even for some blue units. So for a red unit, she actually has a surprisingly good matchup against someone like Brave Hector, and she can definitely be a pretty good unit in that regard. You could also run her with Deflect Missile, because we have stuff like Legendary Leaf, we have Layla, and now we're going to be having Ninja Lin, and pretty much everyone and their mom is going to be using Ninja Lin. So you get the 20% flat damage reduction on Ayra's blade, and then you get the Deflect Missile damage reduction on the special of Ninja Lin, which is going to be like Moonbow most of the time. So Deflect Missile can definitely help you in that regard as a frontliner, because Ninja Lin is going to be extremely common. If she's going to be up against any kind of hit and run unit, then if they do not kill her, then they're going to be eating like Naglfar right off to the face. And if they use a brave weapon like a Brave Bow Archer, then Deflect Missile is right there to protect Ayra. Again, this can work at low merges, but at max investment, this is truly going to be a very scary type of Ayra that you might have to face in Aether Ray's defense. And finally, this is not really talked as much for Ayra, and for a good reason. There are many other units who can do the Galeforce role better, but the reason why Ayra deserves a special mention for Galeforce is because she has the Null Guard, so she can even Galeforce through stuff like Guard, Special Fighter, and the Guard weapons that many of the units have got, like Winter Felix, Winter Hilda. So she can just Galeforce off of those Guard type of effects, which makes her unique, similar to BYLETH. And if you're trying to inherit Null follow-up, then Fallen Marita from the Divine Codes 2 section is pretty much going to be the optimal unit, because you also get Flashing Blade 4, and that could be a nice fun alternate option. Obviously, this is not the best way to use Ayra, it's just another option in her arsenal. She's best used as a distant counter Null follow-up unit, of course, but still it's an option nonetheless, so I thought I would mention this. Ishtar has got really good weapon refine in Mjolnir, and she pretty much becomes a top tier mage in my opinion because of this weapon refine. The special acceleration is still there, which is a very valuable thing for any kind of mage because they don't have inheritable weapons that give them -1 special cooldown, so not many mages have this kind of effect. And with this weapon and its refine, she can essentially get +5 attack and +11 speed, always in the player phase consistently, and she can also get it in the enemy phase if she's alone, but she's meant to be a player phase unit for the most part, so that doesn't really matter too much. Her refine has half of Null follow-up, which allows her to run Windsweep and still double without receiving any kind of counter attacks. So it's pretty much similar to what Young Merit can do with Windsweep, Duo BYLETH as well, and also Selena. Selena is a blue mage cavalier, and Ishtar could be considered a Selena who's not on a horse because she can basically cover the same kind of niche as Selena does from Sacred Stones. And being able to run Windsweep while being such good offensive unit definitely makes her into a really strong offensive blue mage option, and definitely one of the best blue mages in the entire game in my personal opinion. And I did call her Selena without a horse, and that actually has its benefits because she has access to the infantry only skills, which definitely is going to be making her pretty powerful. So even on a budget, she's going to be packing a punch. She could run Desperation, which you were probably running before she got a weapon refine, so that works out. But the truly optimal skill for slot B is Windsweep if you want to use her seriously, so make sure to have it. And Moonbow becomes a one-turn special because of Mjolnir, so she's always going to be triggering that on her second hit. So try to pump up her speed with Life and Death, so Sparrow basically, and have Windsweep, and that is basically the best option you could do even on a budget. And if you're trying to invest a bit more into her, then you could of course run Sparrow 3 on slot A to get more offenses, and Time Pulse. And Draconic Aura can also be a pretty good option with Time Pulse, or you could run Luna. So it becomes a 2-turn special with Mjolnir, and then Time Pulse brings it down to 1 turn, which she can trigger on her double attack. Because she's got Windsweep, she automatically becomes such a good unit to be used in Aether 8's defense, because most units that are going to be attacking your defense are going to be physically based, so Windsweep is going to be helping a lot against them. And even on a budget, Mjolnir with that Windsweep niche can definitely help you quite a bit, so you can easily run this with double Sparrow. And if you want to invest a bit more into her, then you could get ARD attack speed from the Divine Codes 2 section from Dancer Ethelyn, and that is going to be an extremely strong option for Ishtar if she is meant to be a permanent unit in your Aether 8's defense team. Only invest into this skill if she's meant to be that. And Time Pulse and Moonbow basically makes her into a Pulse Smoke proof offensive unit, because Time Pulse will always just pre-charge Moonbow, and that is extremely good. You could also run something like Dragon Fang, which is going to be triggering when she double attacks, because Time Pulse and Quicken Pulse will just stack it up and bring it up to 1 cooldown. And you could even pre-charge it up if you have some kind of infantry pulse unit. Luna is also an option for Aether 8's defense for getting more damage output, but it is going to be susceptible to Pulse Smoke, which is a pretty common skill most of the time in higher echelons of Aether 8's Vault of Heaven. So I personally prefer the Moonbow build more with Ishtar because it's just Pulse Smoke proof. Time Pulse is just amazing for that. And then at max investment, I definitely feel like plus attack IV is the better one. At lower investments, you'll see plus speed IV, and that's definitely something I would recommend because you want to meet the speed check basically to trigger Windsweep even against the fastest units in the game. But at max investment, you do have the option of running plus attack because she's already really fast. And if you're someone with plus 10 Ishtar, then she is such a good premium option for B-Dual Infantry to be used in Arena, because she can apply safe pressure with Windsweep. Not only that, but she can also trigger Ruptured Sky, which you could pre-charge it up. So even against units who have got Special Fighter and won't allow you to, charge up your specials, you could just have it pre-charged as it is, and even trigger it twice in a single round of combat if you're facing something like a dragon with Distant Counter or Lightning Breath. So Ishtar can be a really good option there as well. Overall, Ishtar has become a very solid option, even if you use her on a budget. Lyon is such a fan favorite unit from Sacred Stones, and he's been long overdue for a Weapon Refine. He finally gets one. There is actually mistranslation in the game's description of this Weapon Refine. I've actually corrected it in my image here, so what you're seeing is his actual Weapon Refine, and I'll go over that in a bit. So Lyon still has his Raven Tome, and his Weapon Refine allows him to inflict -4 attack and resistance debuff on foe in both phases if he's above half health. And that is pretty good for extra bulk and damage output, and the other condition pretty much gives him Quick Repose 3 built into his Refine, which definitely frees up his slot B skill and allows him to run other options like Lull, Null C, and many other things. So that is definitely a pretty good thing. But the reason why this Weapon Refine is just decent and not really too impressive is because it has got some really unnecessary things. Like in 2021, do you really need to tie attack and resistance debuff to his HP and also give him Quick Repose 3, literally not even make it lenient for its HP condition, when we have got someone like Roy and Faye with their Weapon Refines where they get Quick Reposed when they're above half health? So it's definitely a bit strict on the HP conditions, and he could have used a bit lenient conditions, honestly. The mistranslation basically said that he gets an auto follow-up in both phases, which definitely made people think that it was a really good Weapon Refine and really impressive, because it makes Lyon into a mixed phase unit who can function in both phases. But because it was a mistranslation and he only has Quick Reposed, it just locks him into the enemy phase role, which he was already doing, but having that auto follow up in the mistranslation, which is suggested, would have been really good, because that would have made him more flexible. Overall, I feel like this is a pretty decent Weapon Refine, just that it's not really overly impressive. I feel like Intelligence Systems already thinks that Raven Tomes are strong. We see it time and time again. They don't really get too impressively strong effects. Like Cecilia just got the Flyer Effectiveness and Triangle Adept, which is still pretty good, but nothing really too insane compared to the other refines, I would say. So pretty decent Weapon Refine. Freeing up his slot B skill from Quick Repose is a huge boon and can allow some more options, and also pretty much frees up his Sacred Seal as well in a way, since he does have Quick Repose already in his Weapon Refine. So on a budget, you could easily run him with Triangle Adept, and this is what I would recommend for something like Arena Assault, where you face so many colorless archers, and you could just run Guard or Axe Breaker. Axe Breaker allows him to deal with stuff like Legendary Edelgard, Brave Edelgard, many of the Axe Armor units that you're going to be facing in Arena Assault. So that could be done, and Sturdy Stance or Attack Defense Solo could be used to just give him extra defense, because at Unmerged, he's really not that bulky, especially if you're going to be facing like really invested plus units in Arena Assault. So just keep that in mind. Lyon is definitely someone who should be used at max investment, ideally. That could be said about many units, but for units which are older, who don't get the most insane Weapon Refines, they pretty much need to be used at like max investment. So at max investment, Lull Attack Resistance is going to be an extremely strong slot B option overall for him, so you should definitely try to consider that. And Mystic Boost, I would say, is the best Sacred Seal option, because the weapon effect on his Weapon Refine is basically tied to his HP, so it's in your best interest to keep him healthy, and Mystic Boost helps you with that without really wasting a special running Soul or Noontime, and you could focus on a damaging special like Iceberg or Glimmer. So that can be done. And Attack Defense Unity can be a pretty good slot A skill, but Close Foil can also be an option at max investment, because he does get pretty bulky at like absolute max investment, so that's an option as well. And because he's a Raven Tome unit, he is pretty much trying to be a ranged tank, and in that role, he can definitely work out in Aether 8's offense. On a budget, you could definitely try to have Triangle Adept build, You can get Null Counter Disrupt from the Divine Codes 2 section from Fallen Lyon, so that's a possibility that you could do even if you're a free-to-play player. And Triangle Adept can definitely help you in something like Astro Season, where you're going to be facing, through Seers, you're going to be facing a lot of healers, stuff like Halloween Rolf, Python, Wrath, all of those Cavaliers, ranged Cavaliers. So their Triangle Adept and Null Counter Disrupt can really help you as a ranged tank. But if you want to invest a bit more into him, then you could get Mirror Stance 3. That's also obtainable from Divine Codes. And Mirror Stance 3 does have good synergy with something like Pulse Smoke that can just stop the enemy from charging up any of their specials. Can help versus someone like Thrusier, who does have Flashing Blade most of the time. And not letting the enemy charge up their special is a big thing, because many units in Aether raids are going to be running Moonbow, so that they could trigger that on your unit. So stopping that with Mirror Stance is extremely powerful. So would definitely recommend that if you want to invest a bit more into him. And if you inherited Null Counter Disrupt from Winter Altina, then you already have Attack Res Unity, so that just gives him so much more bulk with the debuffs. And infantry schools are pretty common, and debuffs are pretty common in general in Aether raids, so that works out. And finally, for Aether raids offense, if you kind of want to make him into what he was with the mistranslation and make him function in both phases, then you pretty much have to speed stack on him with like 2 Plumerias and plus speed IV and double attack speed solo. This pretty much makes him incredibly fast unit, and it kind of adds to his bulk in a way, because he's not going to get doubled that much, because he reaches like 60 speed, which is pretty good. You still have to watch out for melee threats like Eliwood, of course, or Ducel or Ingrid. Any of those Cavaliers at melee range are going to be quite omnipresent in many good teams, so gotta watch out for that. But this pretty much gives him a way of doubling in the player phase and then just sitting there, hit and sit. That's the playstyle basically, which you could use with this kind of Lyon. You could also use him in Aether Raid's defense actually, because he does have pretty good matchups in like Dark Season against Light Mythics, Milla, Ayra, Freya, and also Peony in a way, because Peony is just a dancer. He can actually get pretty bulky with health support and also getting attack defense unity and attack defense bond. And of course, Ninja Lin is going to be getting pretty common, so it's not really that bad to have a Raven Tome like Lyon in your Aether Raid's defense team when so many colorless units are going to be coming your way. And with dagger debuffs with Ninja Lin and Ayra, attack defense unity is pretty much going to be rewarding you for those debuffs. You could also use him in Arena, because Arena also is a place where you face a lot of archers, colorless archers like Ledgering Leaf, Ledgering Alm, Ledgering Claude. Of course, he's not going to have an absolute winning matchups against many of those units, but still he can do a pretty good job compared to many of the ranged units because of his Raven Tome. So R-Dual Infantry is definitely an option on him. You can also run Lull Attack Resistance, but the debuffs with Rue Skill can also help you there. And Infantry Hexblade can also allow your allies to have another form of support. Larashil did come with Mage Erika, and they both had pretty similar weapons, but Gleipnir got a Weapon Refine much early on. And I guess that was for the best, because Ivaldi's Weapon Refine is pretty lenient in terms of the enemy's HP compared to Gleipnir, which requires the enemy to be at full HP. So in that sense, it is definitely pretty easy to activate, because you just need the foe to be above 75% HP and you'll have both of the effects from her Weapon Refine. Her Refine condition is kind of similar to Valentine Veronica's inheritable weapon, Pact Blooms Plus, which inflicts attack and resistance debuff on the foe during the combat and then heals you up after the combat. So in a vacuum, this Weapon Refine is not bad, but it is not a good Weapon Refine on Larashil because it really doesn't do too much for her speed. Speed is something that Larashil really needs, and the healing that this Refine gives just has anti-synergy with Desperation. Now, as I said, this Weapon Refine isn't bad in itself, but it tries to make Larashil into a mixed phase Mage Cavalier, which is definitely pretty unique compared to stuff like Reinhardt, Ursula, Selena, but Larashil just doesn't have the HP and the defense for that kind of role. I feel like even at max investment, she's not gonna be having much HP. So making her bulky can only go so much when she might just get one-shotted because she doesn't have very high HP or very high defense. So I can appreciate the fact that they're trying to make her a bit more unique, but in the end, it doesn't really work out with how Larashil is basically used. And so if you want to use Larashil, you pretty much have to just make her into a mixed phase Cavalier, which you can work out, but still it could have been much better. So I really wish Larashil was not a holy woman and would beat IS Senseless for this kind of Weapon Refine. Like, she doesn't have high HP or defense for this, but still, at least she has got more viability by getting this kind of weapon refine. So on a budget, there's really not many options you could run. Fury is pretty much what I would suggest, and the healing that she gets does have good synergy with Fury and push skills, so that's an option. And you could pretty much run like a Link skill. Desperation has really awkward synergy with this kind of healing that she is constantly going to be getting with Ivaldi. So that's why you could run Speed Defense Link on a budget, and I would definitely recommend using Lara Shell at max investment. Like, this weapon refine does help her, yes, but it's not a kind of weapon refine that will make people want to build her up if they didn't already have her. If you already have her, then yes, this is a bonus, but if not, then doesn't really do too much. So you can pretty much run attack speed push for and lull speed resistance from someone like Brave Lysithea, and the self recall damage from push skill pretty much gets offset by the healing. Rouse speed defense is also another really good skill that you could run because defense is where she's lacking. So having this from Ferdinand definitely helps you quite a bit, and she can get fairly bulky for a Cavalier at plus an investment, but that low HP definitely hurts quite a bit. You could also run double solo skills because it does have synergy with Rouse skills, and you definitely want to run a lull skill in slot B at max investment. Lull attack speed does give her the extra bulk, so that is pretty good. And the Fury 4 build is pretty much what can help you have max bulk if you're trying to go full mixed phase Cavalier mode, trying to make her as bulky as you possibly can. And with summoner support and everything, she can reach a decent amount of HP at least, so that's an option. And you know, Mage Cavaliers are always going to be an option for something like Aether Raid's defense. So if you want to use her, then you could pretty much try to make her into a bulky Cavalier with some expensive skills like ARD speed defense from a seasonal unit. This pretty much puts her at effectively 58 defense and 53 resistance, while also having effectively 56 speed. So if you wanna use her with max investment in Aether Raid's defense, then ARD speed defense is definitely something you wanna get. The defense part is what she needs the help with, and most of the time in Aether Raid's defense, the attackers are going to be physically based, so that's why it could help her. And she can of course have a better matchup against many of the Astra mythics like Altina, Plumeria, and Regan, of course, who are all red, so that could work out if you really want to use her at max investment. And then finally we have got Halloween Nowi's Weapon Refine. The first seasonal Weapon Refine is pretty insane with its movement shenanigans because she is the first unit in the game who can teleport within 2 spaces of an ally who is near 2 spaces of her. Just to show you how ridiculous this is, here is an example. Just look at the amount of range that she has because of the teleportation. So many units just try to teleport just 1 space of the ally, but she teleports 2 spaces, which just makes her have ridiculous movement, especially with the rival domains picture that you're seeing. And because of her flyer mobility, like, she can have really insane advantage against many of the maps which are really flyer focused. And even in Aether Raid's defense, she can overlap with so many units if you place her in a good strategic position. And this can definitely catch your opponents off guard because the teleportation is something which we never really had before. So she has like unmatched movement potential. Just look at this disgusting range that she can get. Of course, she's not the strongest unit, but this kind of thing can definitely catch people off guard and should not be underestimated in any condition whatsoever. So the Weapon Refine can pretty much give her effectively +8 attack, +8 speed, and +4 defense and resistance. And she pretty much has a 3 range rain skill, which can also support the allies. So she can be used in a support way as well, as you'll see later on with the builds. So it's an extremely fun Weapon Refine, and she can be a threat because we never had anything like this in FEH with this kind of teleportation. It's really insane because maps in FEH are pretty small, so this kind of thing is very strong on Nowi, and she's definitely pretty unique with that. So on a budget, you could just run Fury Desperation, the good old combo. There's really not much you could do on budget. And you could also use them on a budget in Aether Raid's offense as a support unit. Because of her 3 range rain skill, she can be a support unit for maybe some kind of flyer like Brave Claude, I'm guessing, or Ashnard. Any of those flyers can use this kind of support with ward flyers, distant guard, and just provide the link support. And she can also help you collect the pots, break structures because of her insane movement. So the insane movement just helps you with that kind of possibility, because you're restricted to 7 turns in Aether rate. So any kind of extra mobility that you could get is absolutely insane, and that too with a flyer mobility. And on a budget, she could also be used in Aether rate's defense, like I showed you with the picture before. She can definitely be used in that regard, and that can definitely catch people off guard. She is of course not going to be hitting extremely hard, but still she can get the job done many of the times because of the insane range. You could use this for even rally traps, and force healing traps can also work with this. Just the teleportation can be a pretty amazing thing to catch people off guard with. So you could pretty much run her with budget skills like ARD Speed Rest from Mercedes, Axe Breaker. Axe Breaker can help you in matchups like Brave Ike, Brave Edelgard if she can survive one hit from them, and Guidance is an option which we did get from the limited ephemera Tana, and Guidance can pretty much allow an ally to just teleport and attack. And you could also use her with more investment with something like Steady Impact and Guard, so this could definitely make her a bit more bulky with more investment. And Ground Orders is also something you could use over Guidance if you want to provide that kind of support to your allies. And you could also use her with the push skills and the rain skills if you decide to fodder off someone like Triandra, so that just boosts her offensive capabilities. But if you want to fodder off someone like Brave Claude maybe for Fury 4 and Attack Speed Rain, then that's also an option. Overall, I feel like this Weapon Refinery batch is pretty good, and the winner of this is easily Ayra in my opinion. Of course, Ishtar is also extremely good, but the thing is that Sword Infantry is such a competitive class type that becoming as good as Ayra after so many years is such an impressive thing with a Weapon Refine. So it just improves their value so much. And Ishtar is also extremely strong. Lyon, even though he could have had it a bit better, it's still a pretty decent Weapon Refine. And overall, I feel like Lara Shill kind of got the short end of the stick with this. Nowi got really insane niche that no one has in the game right now, so that is definitely going to be increasing her value. So let me know in the comments your opinion on these Weapon Refines, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I wish YouTube sub boxes had the insane mobility of Nowi when it came to videos. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.